Is Israel expanding its airstrikes to Syria? And are the attacks on U.S. forces a lot more widespread and more devastating than initial reports indicated? I'm Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran. It's October 25th, 2023. This is your daily Israel Hamas update. Let's get right into it. Okay, first, taking a look at the update map, you can see that a couple of really noteworthy changes that are worth discussing. The first is that it's been reported by NBC that the total number of American soldiers injured in the last 7 days during attacks on their bases is actually 25. That's a significantly higher number than I was expecting, and that these reports indicated initially. Initially, they were described as kind of easily interdicted, very, very minor attacks. But as you can see from this reporting, that actual number, again, 25 is significant. Remember, this is between bases in Iraq, right? And of course, in Syria, the U.S. base's location not marked, I think for fairly obvious reasons. But a real indicator that this is more than just harassment, and this is probably more than just rogue elements within the Iranian-backed militias taking things on themselves, right? You're unlikely to have this level of effectiveness, right? The average mortar attack on a U.S. base when I was in Afghanistan, the average Taliban attack, again, almost always with mortars or crude rockets, resulted in 0 casualties. So to inflict 25 requires actually a very, very robust scale of attack. So I think it's telling and troubling that scale is being brought to bear on U.S. forces. The other news, right? Of course, the Pentagon confirming that there have been more than 10 of these attacks on U.S. forces in Iraq and an additional 3 in Syria, again, over the last week, which it really is indicative of the fact that this is starting to look like a dangerous, if not escalation. It certainly seems like they're deliberately trying to bring the United States into this conflict. Now, the U.S., of course, likely doesn't want to be in this conflict, and it's hard to get a major power into a conflict it doesn't want to be in. But the U.S., bear in mind, will absolutely not let these groups catch a break. You don't get to throw rockets at U.S. troops without getting a visit late at night from some people looking to get their version of justice, right? I have no doubt that the U.S. intelligence community and special forces community is already working hard to get back at these armed groups. But how much of that will be traced back to Iran, that remains to be seen. Now, the other interesting news is what they're calling either an incident at Zakim Beach. This is in Israel, and when we zoom in, it actually is south or north of Gaza, near the town of Ashkelon. And what this appears to be is infiltration efforts. Actually, supposedly, but Hamas militants trying to infiltrate into Israel from Gaza, actually via the sea. Supposedly, these were divers that attempted to land in the Zakim region. Of course, an infiltration alarm went off, and it sounds like Israeli forces are currently engaged in a clearing operation to try to sort out or try to make sure they've cleared out all of the forces from this area. Now, bear in mind, this is significant because of the location. Remember, when Israeli forces, they're massing in preparation for this assault on Gaza, they're likely massing again in and around these walls. It says, for example, 13 hours ago, Israeli airstrike and a tank fired into Gaza. So you know that there's tank formations in and around these empty regions here. So this could have been part of an infiltration effort to actually get to the main body of Israeli troops and conduct what sometimes either a reconnaissance operation, but more than likely this was actually would have been a disruption, an effort to disrupt Israeli preparations for their ground invasion. I say this because when you have irregular forces, they don't do armed reconnaissance. They rely on non-uniformed civilians to do that sort of reconnaissance work. Now, they said the number was actually about 15, which is a fairly large, a fairly robust landing group. Again, likely for 15 is too large for a reconnaissance element for an irregular force. It's likely a sabotage or disruption. Other than that, the other most important news is Israel launching strikes on the Syrian army after it reports rockets had been launched at their location from Syria. You can see in and around these regions here, the Israeli army says 2 rockets were launched from Syria at Israel. Both landed in open areas, and the Israeli army responded with artillery to the source. This is called counter battery fire. It's pretty standard military stuff. It's an automated system where it detects rockets or mortars, projectiles being shot in, and an advanced radar just simply automatically does the math, says, hey, the math says this rocket came from point X or point Y, and I mean, it's a little more elaborate than this, but basically it just asks, would you like me to shoot back? And you can tell the rocket, yeah. You can tell your own mortars, yes, shoot back. And they immediately shoot back. Different systems have different functionalities, but the idea that the process of counter battery fire is now heavily automatic or automated. And of course, there are rumors that these are targeting both Assad and Iranian-backed militia in and around Syria. So once again, a number of troubling signs about escalation of this conflict. And as always, guys, if you're interested in seeing some of the footage that YouTube won't let me show you, this is generally like footage with a little more of a combat bend to it. I have all those on my own site, combatvetnews.com. I do my analysis of them there. I tried to do some deep dive analysis. We actually get, I can't show you the thumbnails. YouTube will demonetize me, but if you want to become a member, yeah, there we go. If you want to become a member, it's the best way to support the channel. Keep me independent. Obviously, covering this conflict, advertisers won't touch me. So I rely on you guys, and my team relies on you guys. So thanks a lot, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Hit like and subscribe.